What is up? Welcome into the Early Edge powered by SportsLine. I am your host, Allan Bell, and we are going to go through the Raiders at Browns game today. We've got obviously two NFL games. We will also have a live show tonight at 7:15 p.m. Eastern to break down Vikings and Bears. Coach will be hosting that one, but I tell you what, let's not waste any time. Let's bring in the stars of the show and get this thing started. Boys, looking good. How we doing? M squared, doing all right?
Doing great. I am fired up we call it Thursday night football. This is Thursday afternoon football. Starts at 4 o'clock here Central Time. If you're on the West Coast, it is definitely afternoon football. But yeah, I actually love both of these games tonight.
Yeah, they're going to be a lot of fun. See ya. What are you looking at, my man? How we doing?
Bonus football with 1.5 football teams at 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I think it's going to be super fun, and it's so cool because once that game's over, we got another game to watch on a Monday night. Can't ask for much more.
That's true. Prop stars, my man. Looking sharp, buddy.
What's up, AB? Mikey, see ya. Great to see you guys. I'm excited for a little matinee football. This should be a ton of fun.
Yeah, it should. I'll tell you what. Well, we're not going to waste any time. Let's jump right into it. So we're sitting right now, I believe, Raiders -3, a total of 41. Now, what I want to do first, before we address anything in this game, obviously it's been moved, from Saturday to today because of all of the players that the Browns had out in terms of COVID. And it's hard to get an idea of how many key players they are down until you visually look at how many star players that they are down. So, Sia, I'm going to start with you. You look at this list. What comes to your mind first in regards to this game?
Yeah, well, a couple things. I think, and maybe, Mike, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I know we were talking about this earlier, but oh, no, okay, this guy was taken off the list. I thought Harrison Bryant might have been on here. But so this is really tough because when you're looking at playing, let's say, the Raiders, I mean, it almost, this chart almost coaxes you into playing the Raiders because it's like, okay, we've got a full team versus what appears to be a half a team. And I'm not even really using that term loosely, especially when you consider the names on this list with the top two quarterbacks, the 1B running back, the leading receiver, the leading tight end, Jedrick Wills. That's such a big deal. Their entire secondary has issues. Obviously, Jadeveon Clowney, Malik McDowell. These are all big names. So it's just one of those things you wonder what the game flow is going to be like. For me, I would imagine that Cleveland's going to be playing it really close to the vest and just really leaning on Nick Chubb. I don't think they want to put this game in Nick Mullens' hands, but it's interesting. I'm doing everything I can to resist the temptation to take the Raiders because I feel like I'm kind of getting set up for that. And I do want to kind of take a step back and make sure that that's actually the right play.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I look at this list and even with it, it's tough to have a ton of faith in this Raiders team, specifically their offense. Their defense plays hard. They have issues, getting off the field, specifically on third down, but you don't have Darren Waller either. Right? Like it's legitimately Derek Carr and Hunter Renfrow. This game is going to be fascinating to me. So I agree with what you're saying. M squared, take a look at this list, man. Like what comes to your head first?
Well, Sia started to mention it. So they were really going to be limited if Harrison Bryant was out, Schwartz were out, but they are back. That does provide some much needed depth at the pass catching position for them. And then Wyatt Teller. Those are the three key ones. Like if you had Wyatt Teller's name on the O-line out here as well, massive blow, massive benefit getting them back, not only for Nick Chubb in the run game, but for helping to protect Nick Mullens in this game. So yeah, it's not ideal, but there are still a number of pieces missing on that Raiders side, as you guys started to mention as well. So, one benefit that they get here obviously is, unconventional start time, get to rally around some of that stuff. Obviously get to play at home, still a home game for them. So we'll see. We'll talk about it here in a few minutes.
Yeah, definitely. Prop stars. What are your thoughts, buddy?
Yeah, I don't know that Nick Mullens is a significant downgrade from Baker Mayfield and Case Keenum, actually. I mean, he started 18 games. He's played somewhat serviceably. Furthermore, I've always felt the Browns, the strength of their team was largely their depth. One of the reasons I liked their total team wins as a future in the offseason, which was at 10, which isn't looking that great right now, I might add, but was because of how much depth this roster has. It has a ton of talent from top to bottom. So in my opinion, if any team can handle losing, half their starters plus a bunch of extra players, ancillary players, I feel like it is the Browns. They're going to be competitive, and yeah, I think they're going to play well.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's jump right into our best bets for this game. And Prop Stars, let's keep it with you. What do you got first?
Yeah, so I've got two bets that I like quite a bit. The first one, we mentioned the Browns of going David Njoku over 29.5 receiving yards. I mentioned I don't think Nick Mullens is a huge, steep downgrade at quarterback. He's started 18 career games. And Njoku, as we mentioned, is one of the only healthy pass catchers on the Browns roster right now. No Jarvis Landry, no Austin Hooper. He leads the entire team with everybody healthy with a 1.95 yards per route run. Nick Mullens also has an affinity for throwing to tight ends as well. If you look back at his tenure in San Francisco, some of George Kittle's best games were with Mullens at quarterback. Even Ross Dwelly had massive games with Mullens at quarterback. So yeah, he likes to spam his tight ends. The Raiders are also an excellent matchup on paper, very friendly. They allow the third most yards per game to the tight end position, 65 yards per game. Furthermore, Oakland ranks 30th in DVOA to the tight end position. So this is an excellent matchup on paper with a quarterback who likes to target his tight end. So yeah, I like backing Njoku. Would have liked it even more with Harrison Bryant, but a number at 30, very comfortable with this. I play this up to like 33.5. The other play is an interesting one that I like quite a bit as well. That is Deshaun Jackson over 19.5 receiving yards. Listen, Deshaun Jackson saw his route rate jump up to 76% in week 14. That is a significant deal because he had been a part-time player leading up to that. He played in front of Bryan Edwards for the first time, who saw his route rate drop to 65% versus the Chiefs in week 14. So D-Jax has overtaken him, in my opinion, in this offense. He also has a 2.11 yards per route run, and he had a 3.51 yards per route run in his stint with the Rams. So he is still a high-quality player when he's on the field. Obviously has some durability issues, but if he's getting a full complement of routes, which all indications are that he's going to, this is a massive blow-up spot for him, in my opinion. Yeah, he is obviously more than capable of getting 19.5 yards in one single catch is all it will take. He's averaging 28.5 yards per couch. So we'll just need one. In my opinion, he's still the effective and explosive receiving option that he's been. Obviously, he's aging and there are some durability concerns. But yeah, I think he's going to be on the field a ton, running a lot of routes on cars drop backs. So yeah, 19.5 yards. I think it's definitely worth a play.
I love it. All right, see ya. Talk to us about Zay Jones.
Yeah, this fits nicely a little bit with Deshaun Jackson. So I think with Zay Jones, a lot of people thought of him, especially when Waller was hurt or maybe earlier in this season, as sort of the deep play threat. We saw that here and there. He wasn't getting many targets, but he certainly was the guy down the field. Now the Raiders get Deshaun Jackson, and all of a sudden he becomes the deep play threat. I totally agree with Alex. Not only do I love the receiving line, but I expect him to get that on one catch. That doesn't mean he's only going to have one catch, but this could be the first quarter and he has a 27-yard catch and run, and that's ball game for that bet. Zay Jones has been working, his ADOT is much less than Deshaun. He's been working as more of an underneath guy. Obviously, Renfro was the primary underneath guy, but with Waller injured and Foster Moreau really not getting the targets that people expected, it really has been Zay Jones. Over the last 3 games, he's had 7 targets, 5 targets, and 7 targets, and he's been pretty efficient with them. He's basically, of those targets, he's caught, about 80% of them. I would say it's 5, 3, and 5. So yeah, I just, in this game with the Cleveland secondary being so banged up, I expect to see a little bit more throwing from Derek Carr. And I think 2.5 is a really good number. I would have expected this number to be like 3 or 3.5. So I think we're getting some value here.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's not a little bit higher too. I agree. M squared, Browns +3, man.
Browns +3, baby. I like it a lot. The line's gotten a little bit out of hand. Really like that Harrison Bryant and Schwartz were both activated for this game, especially Harrison Bryant. As you listen to Alex Mullens is going to funnel things to the tight end. We see it really with a lot of backup quarterbacks anyway, just shorter depth of targets, bigger bodies catching passes. These guys are both more than capable of catching the passes. Actually, two pretty friendly big bodies in Njoku and Harrison Bryant to catch those passes. So, my simulation number here at this point is Raiders minus 0.4. That indicates a pretty clear play in the simulations here on the Browns. Basically, primetime home dog. If you blindly bet primetime home dogs, it'll probably be more profitable than most betting systems that you have ever used in your life, essentially. There's just a lot of value in these spots. So math says I have to take it. I'm going to take it. I don't think Nick Mullens is a massive drop-off either, like Alex said. And I think that they have a number of weapons. And then on the Raiders side, their inactives, while obviously not dealing with the depth issues that the Browns are in terms of COVID and all the other things, this Browns team is still deep. But on the Raiders side, big issues, especially on the defensive side. Denzel Perryman, Will Compton, linebackers, both out for this game. If you look at their linebacking depth chart at middle linebacker, they don't have one. All four of the guys that have typically played middle linebacker for them are out for this game. So they will be shifting things around. Defensive tackle, Kendall Vickers not playing today. Darren Waller on the offensive side out. Jordan Simmons, Jackson Barton, two of the linemen, also out for the Raiders in this game. So both teams dealing with some issues. Raiders obviously annoyed that this game was pushed back. They were set to travel. They were literally lined up to board the bus and then the plane to come to this game. We're told to not get on there. So they've been, it's a very unusual week. Now they're on the road. So I like the Browns here getting 3 at home.
Nice. And I'm on Hunter Renfrow over 77.5 receiving yards tonight. You look at him, his production has doubled over the last 3 weeks. He's eclipsed this number over the last 3. And in fact, he's gone over 100 plus receiving yards in his last 3. I think for an offense, and it's specifically a quarterback, that's dealing with the struggles across that entire offense, somebody that he trusts, that runs crisp routes, that catches the ball. I think it's going to be massive in this game tonight. I know that Cleveland's probably going to do what they can to shadow and limit Hunter Renfrow, but I don't know really what they can do in regards to doing that. So I'm going to ride the Hunter Renfrow train. So those are our best bets for the game. Now, we just talked about the spread in regards to M Squared's pick. Fellas, I want to talk about the total really quickly, okay? And Mike, I'll start with you, and you guys feel free, jump in here. We got a total of 41. That's a low total, but, all things considered with everything here, it might not be. What are your thoughts here? What is your, projection see out of this? Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it is a low total on the surface. Look, I think that the Cleveland Browns, we know they're going to want to try to establish the run here. I don't have any edge on the total. I think it's right where it should be. My number is 41.2. I mean, I guess it's a small lean to the under, but not something that I'm really going to go after there. I actually teased the over up in it because I do think that the number is low enough that the bringing it down the 6 points and then playing the over, so over 35.5. I think that number is a real good number to attack. It's just such a low number in the NFL. So this game to me has 2017 written all over it in terms of the final score of it, which gets you there on the 35.5. So not comfortable playing the under on this number at 41.5. Between 41 and 44 are pretty key spots here in this league, but getting over 35.5, where again, the 20-17 final score really gets you there. That's where I would look to attack the total. So for me, no play on the total other than teasing.
Yeah, and it's fascinating. You brought up some good points here. First off, in regards to the Browns and Nick Chubb, excuse me, if they could get early success running the football, that's a massive, massive win for them. I mean, every quarter that they could keep it, low scoring or just keep it, score, match the Raiders here, it is a huge win. But also you're looking at a Raiders offense that doesn't start fast at all. Like that's essentially them and the Pittsburgh Steelers are two of the slowest starting teams in regards to points in the NFL. Alex, how does that affect, anything you see in regards to maybe the total, maybe props, maybe the way that just the game script overall goes? What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, no, I agree with you, AB. I do think the Browns will obviously look to establish Nick Chubb. That seems like the clearest path to victory for them. When they're fully healthy, that's obviously their game plan. This is a team that likes to run as much as any team in the NFL. They have a lot of running back depth as well. I do think we'll see some D'Ernest Johnson mix in a bunch between the 20s. He's proven to be a very, very good third-string running back, not just a product of a good system, which they also obviously have. I think Wyatt Teller playing as well, like Mike mentioned, is a huge plus for this Browns team as well. One of the best offensive guards in the NFL. So, I do believe the Browns are going to look to establish the run. I also could see, conversely, on the other side, a healthy dose of Josh Jacobs as well. We've seen Carr lean on him a lot recently, especially in the passing game. But if you look at the amount of players injured for Cleveland in that front seven, it wouldn't surprise me whatsoever to see the Raiders try and do the same thing early on, just kind of really try to establish their running game, get it going. See if they can feature Josh Jacobs. I think Jalen Richard is also active for the first time in quite a few weeks. So I was looking at Josh Jacobs' receptions. He's been a lot more involved as a pass catcher with Richard on injured reserve, but I do believe he's going to mix in some and steal some of that passing work. So, I do think both teams are going to look to set up the run, especially early.
Yeah, and I'll say this really quickly. Everybody make sure smash that like button. The jeweler is not going to allow M Squared's Donkey Parlay to come out until we hit a certain number. And you know what? I can't get the jeweler's way. Like, he runs the show. He's the EP. He does what he does. But everybody make sure smash that like button now. All right, Sia, coming to you. Really the same question, okay? Like, take it anywhere you want to go in regards to what you think game scripts will look like coming out, right? Think first half, and you could get into the full game. But, how does this game start? Are we looking at a slow start of both teams trying to limit mistakes, run the football? Do we see the Raiders try to attack the Browns early and use, a lead to take Nick Chubb out of the game? Like, what are your thoughts here? And in regards to, players, just really anywhere you want to take it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think from a Brown standpoint, I think it's pretty clear they're going to be running Nick Chubb early, and they're not going to try to put the game in Nick Mullens' hand. The question is, and you said it, the question is, how do the Raiders begin their attack? And they have been flat to start games. And honestly, as exposed as this Cleveland defense is, especially at the secondary, I could really see Derek Carr just going on the attack early and trying to do what you said, taking Nick Chubb out of the game, which of course won't work unless you're up probably a couple touchdowns or so. But the point is, I actually expect, and whether it's successful or not is a different story, but I kind of have a slight lean to the over as well. I definitely like Mike's tease idea. And honestly, if you like the over in the second game, which of course we will have a show for that one as well, I think teasing both of those down and taking the over kind of makes sense to me. It's not an official play I'm making or anything, but that line keeps creeping up in this second game, that Minnesota-Chicago game. It opened at 43. It was at 44.5 earlier today. I'm now seeing it at 46. So I think if you tease both of those down, let's say 6 points down to 40 and then down to, what would that be, 35.5, like Mike said. I kind of like both those overs on a tease, but I expect Derek Carr to sort of showcase his arm today. I also do like Jacobs, but I'll say, his rushing total prop was literally 30 minutes ago was 58.5, and now it's 60.5. So I think people are kind of taking Alex's advice already and starting to push on that Josh Jacobs rushing total over. But I think this game is going to have some scoring in it, and I think Derek Carr is going to have a nice game today.
Yeah, they certainly need it, right? Like, I mean, this is a Raiders team that's reeling, and they've been going through it, not only the last few weeks, all season. I mean, this has just been a disaster season with everything that they've dealt with, and I'm fascinated to see what the energy looks like out of this team, right? Because, quite frankly, there could be NFL players don't quit, give up on the years. That there's too much going on. But teams certainly play differently when you have things on the line and when you don't. And, Jeweler, if we could, pull up Caesars Sportsbook. I want to jump into some of these prop bets right now, specifically the quarterbacks. Let's start there. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, so if any of you guys do, in terms of pass yards, go ahead. Props. You got Derek Carr and Nick Mullens?
Yeah, I believe Mullens is sitting around 200, I want to say. I know Carr opened at 260. I saw him get bet down to, I believe, like 248.5 on most books right now.
There we go.
Yeah,
All right, so we've got
247.5 and Nick Mullens Stewart. So yeah, I think at the 260 number there was some value on cars under. I do think that properly adjusted when it got bet down. I think it's fairly efficient around that 250 range. There are a lot of injuries in this Browns secondary. Obviously, we saw that graphic. I also saw Greg Newsome Jr., who wasn't on the graphic. He was questionable coming into the game. He is also inactive. So, yeah, there is just a ton of injuries, which is one of the reasons I really think that Djax is going to get loose behind that secondary. But, yeah, I think Carr's number is fairly efficient. Nick Mullens is somewhat predicated on whether or not Nick Chubb is going to get going. If he gets rolling, then I don't think Mullens is going to, need to throw the ball more than 25 to 28 times. If the Raiders are able to attack and exploit all these injuries in Cleveland secondary, go up 14 points, 10 points, double-digit points, then we could see Nick Mullens start to open it up a bit. And, yeah, he's going to have to throw the ball. But, yeah, I think both numbers are fairly efficient where they currently are. If you have an offshore or something and you can still find Carr in that 260 range, I think there's a little bit of value on the under. But to me, Mullens is 2-game script dependent and Carr is where he should be.
Yeah, great answer. And, I'm fascinated to see, and this is for both teams, of how aggressive their defensive lines and linebackers and blitz packages are. I could see Cleveland laying off of it, saying, look, we can't leave this secondary on an island. We essentially have almost all backups in here, and they have Myles Garrett as well, who's kind of, a guy who can really do it on his own. But if Las Vegas doubles MG and says, all right, well, he's not going to be part of this game, good luck with anybody else. I'm fascinated to see that part. So, see, I throw it to you. What are your thoughts here, Derek Carr, Nick Mullens, not only on the yardage, but we see the touchdown passes as well. Anything stick out to you, over or under?
Yeah, what's interesting is the Derek Carr number at different books is different. Like there's a competitor book that shall remain nameless that has it at 252.5. So I think I'm more in line with that 252.5 number. I think I would probably take the over on 247.5. I don't love it though. It's just not enough for me to bet. As far as Nick Mullens is concerned, I think that's a really good number. I would actually lean under there, but it's a very slight lean, and it's not something I'm super confident about. Allan, I'm surprised you haven't brought this up already because the juice is it's just too much. But I'm sure you've already looked at the Nick Mullens over a half interception, and before you even answer, this guy's touchdown to interception ratio is not very good. And I went back and I actually watched tape of him just from 2018 to 2020 when he was with San Francisco. Really some really nice plays. He definitely does target the tight end, like Alex said. Even Bretton Selleck got into the action for the San Francisco 49ers in terms of catching some touchdowns from him. But you can also really disguise your defenses and really take advantage of Nick Mullens because he really locks in on his first read. And if you have a linebacker that looks like he's going to blitz and it looks like man coverage and he drops back, he's really a robber, Mullens will not look off that read and he'll get picked off. So I think that's a really interesting one. Unfortunately, Allan, as you've seen, the juice is pretty high.
Yeah, it's huge. I agree. Like I was looking at this all last night and this morning, and that juice is high. It's super high, obviously at minus 180, but he's probably going to put one up, and I find it interesting. Like, I wonder how many attempts we see out of Nick Mullens. And Julia, if you could scroll down and find that. Yeah. Oh, they don't even have it. Yeah. See. Yeah, absolutely.
They don't have that anywhere, Allan. They don't have that anywhere.
It's tough. It's tough to find, because it's difficult to project, in regards to what you guys were saying with Nick Chubb. M squared, I'll throw it to you real quick. Back to the quarterbacks. Then we'll move on to another positional group. But anything that you saw over or under in regards to Derek Carr or Nick Mullens?
Yeah, you'll see some more in a little bit, but I do like the over on Nick Mullens here in this game, especially I think you should like it a lot if you like the Raiders in this game, or if you like Carr's over. If you like Carr's over, I think that Mullens over is likely pretty highly correlated to that number today. If Carr's sailing over this number, they're likely putting points on the board, which means the Browns, either Nick Chubb's having a career day or they're throwing the football. So I do like it, though. Nick Mullens, when he has been in there and been in successful situations in the past, he's averaging almost 295 passing yards a game. He's just absolutely crushed it in the spots where he's been good. He's going to have a lot of dump offs to tight ends. We're going to see lots of that. I'm interested to see if the Browns end up using some of the other backs as well and throw passes to Nick Chubb and just give him short, high completion percentage passes. Sia mentioned the reads. I love the fact that the linebackers are banged up. That's where you get into trouble with these quarterbacks, are these middle linebackers, those linebackers that roam in that area. I'm not as worried about the deeper shots down the field. I'm not as worried about making mistakes deeper in the secondary. I am very worried about it, again, with that linebackers. I love that there's depth for him at the tight end position and the running back position, frankly. I know we talk about Kareem Hunt being out, but one of the value props to this Browns team is just how loaded they were offensively in terms of not just the line, the depth of the tight end position, and then those running backs. I mean, they've got 4 legitimate running backs on that roster. So I like the over here on Mullens. I make this number much closer to 225 is where I would be setting it. I obviously understand why. Probably going to get hammered and has been getting hammered on the under here, but there are a number of ways to get there. And I want to comment also quickly on the total and why we're not playing the under despite maybe a tiny lean. So in this, a lot of people think about totals like this and unders wanting to attack this backup quarterback because if he's having a poor day. The issue with that is if he's having a truly terrible day and is turning the ball over, that creates short fields for the other offense, which allows for points to be scored. If he turns the football over, the Raiders turn it into points, you are a lot closer to getting the desperation situation where you get a little bit of an accelerated pace, a little bit relaxed defense, a bend don't break approach that allows for an increased pace of play, increased points to be scored later on in this game. So I like, I'm not playing the under, obviously. I've teased the over, and I like Mullens over on the yardage.
That's great info. Absolutely great info. I appreciate you saying that, and I know that everyone else does too. Really quickly, we're over 400 viewers live, but we are under 200 likes. So we're going to set the goal, 250 likes. That's what we have to get M Squared's Donkey of the Day, part 1 for this show right here. All right, Jeweler, if you could pull up back to Caesars, I want to take a look at these running backs and wide receivers here because, Nick Chubb, obviously, what we've talked about, he's going to be a super focal point of the Cleveland Browns. But you guys brought up Josh Jacobs as well, in terms of the Raiders. And I don't think that their game plan is necessarily too terribly different. Like they want to limit, not that they want to limit passing because they trust Derek Carr certainly much more, than they do Nick Mullens, but the more success that they can have on the ground, it's going to help this game. So if you guys have, all right, there we go right there. All right, so total rushing yards. All right, see, I'll start with you, okay? So we've got Nick Chubb, 83.5, minus 130, by the way. Under is plus 100. We got Derek Carr at 5.5, and we have Josh Jacobs at 61.5, even split on both sides. Anything you see here out of any of these guys that you like?
So with Josh Jacobs, unfortunately, it's moved 3 yards, which is pretty significant. So I think I just liked it better at 58.5. Super obvious statement there. I think the one I like here is probably Nick Chubb. Like Mike was suggesting, they did get Wyatt back. So it's not like, Jedrick Wills is still gone, but the offensive line isn't in shambles. And I think clearly the game plan is going to be to get Nick Chubb going. Dearness Johnson is going to get some run as well. 83.5. It's a big number. But if I had to take the over on one of these, it would be that one. And I think the other ones are just stayaways for me.
Yeah. Prop Stars, your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I tend to agree with Sia here. I think the value with Jacobs, it's actually, even though it's only a couple of yards, it's a pretty significant difference, especially if you look at Jacobs. He tends to finish between 55 and 60 yards like clockwork every single week. I also think with Jalen Richard back, Peyton Barber as well, they could potentially mix in. I think that 14.5 number on Jacobs is actually a little bit high. I do think it requires a pretty specific kind of range of outcomes in order for him to have over 15 carries in this game. So, I'm actually thinking there's a little bit of value at minus 105, especially on under 14.5 carries for Jacobs. So, if I had to choose one, it would be that one. I'd also lean over on Chubb's yards here as well. If Chubb gets 19 carries, very, very, very strong bet to go over 83.5 yards. So I prefer the yardage in Chubb's case. But yeah, I do like that. I was been waiting to see what the rushing attempts was. So yeah, I do like the Jacobs under 14.5 attempts.
Nice. And everybody just tuning in, we've reached the half hour here. Thank you so much. It's the early edge. We are previewing the Raiders at Browns game. We will also be live at 7:15 p.m. Eastern to break down the Vikings at Bears game. Coach will be back for that one, and this entire panel right here. You will see us, and we'll break that game down as we are here. All right, Mike, I want to get your thoughts here on the running backs, rushing yards, and then Jeweler, right after that, I want to jump into the wide receivers. So if you could go find them, that would be perfect. M Squared, your thoughts here?
Yeah, I honestly don't like a lot here. I'm certainly not laying the minus 130 on the 83.5. I do expect Dearness Johnson to work into this game quite a bit. I also expect Demetric Felton to be on the field in some of the spots here, also taking some passes. I personally believe they're going to let Nick Mullens throw just a little bit more than the consensus thinks on that one. I think the obvious game plan here for the Raiders is going to be, load the box, make Nick Mullens throw, sell out to stop Nick Chubb. If they get beat that way, they get beat that way. So I'm a little cautious on the yardage. I have a pretty healthy lean on the under, but I've also given, Dearness Johnson a pretty healthy workload in my data as well. So I would lean towards the under on Chubb yards. Just generally think that that's going to be the strategy for the Raiders here is shorter week for Mullens being prepared, wasn't planning to play in this game. I think do all that they can to stuff the box on Nick Chubb here.
Yeah, it makes complete sense, and whether or not they have success doing it, who knows? But the actual game plan of it, totally agree. I think that that's how you have to approach this as well. All right, Jeweler's pulling up the wide receivers here. And Prop Stars, I'll throw it to you as he's pulling that up. Anything that you saw, and look, we're going to do this by both teams, okay? And we'll include wide receivers and tight ends because tight ends obviously could or could not come into play here because you've got injuries on both sides. But yeah, Prop Stars, I'll throw it to you, man. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, should I go over the plays I gave out already since I have a tight end and a wide receiver?
You know what? I'll tell you what. Let's do that really quickly. You don't have to break down in full, but we'll go through. Yeah, M Squared, what do you got?
Oh, I was just going to say, it looks like Jacobs' attempts on FanDuel 16.5.
Wow.
That seems like a very large number to me.
Yeah. All right. I'll tell you what. This is exactly what we'll do. Let's give out our best plays for tonight, and then we'll jump into these wide receivers as well. So Prop Stars, go first. What do you got?
Yeah, so I've got Deshaun Jackson over 19.5 receiving yards. Last weekend against Kansas City, his route rate jumped to 76%, which is a very big deal. He played more and ran more routes than Bryan Edwards, who's been operating as the Raiders wide receiver 3. So Deshaun Jackson is quietly, if you're considering this trend a full-time thing, he has ascended into becoming potentially a full-time player, or at least on passing downs. So yeah, he's going to be on the field a lot. He also has a very, very strong 2.1 yards per route run, and he's been very effective this season, 28.1. It's small sample, but very explosive yards per catch. So yeah, over 19.5 receiving yards. If he's going to be on the field as much as he was last week against a just completely decimated secondary, I think this is just an awesome spot to back Deshaun Jackson. The other play I have is David Njoku over 29.5 receiving yards. We've been talking about all the injuries all day. The ton of injuries in the Browns pass catching groups. No Jarvis Landry, no Austin Hooper. I also talked about how Nick Mullens, in my opinion, is a lot better than people think. He started 18 career games. He also loves spamming tight ends. Njoku leads all Browns players, and that includes healthy players, with 1.95 yards per route run. That's a really good number, coupled with the fact that this is a great matchup on paper. Oakland ranking 30th in DVOA to the tight end position. They really have trouble covering tight ends. So yeah, I love both these plays.
Nice. All right, now see ya. You're on. I'll let you say it. You're on Zay Jones. But what do you think? Break that down, and then take a look here at the board in regards to wide receivers in their receiving yards. Anything that caught your eye? Anything you almost played, didn't? Just what are your thoughts? What are your official plays?
Yeah, I'll start with Zay Jones because, by the way, about an hour ago, that line for Zay Jones receiving yards was 30.5. So just something to keep in mind that got played up a little bit. The problem with Zay Jones, again, and it's part of the reason I mentioned Deshaun Jackson and why it ties in so well. Deshaun Jackson has sort of taken over as the deep threat. So it's very conceivable that Zay Jones gets 4 catches, let's say, and clearly passes the 2.5 catch prop, which again is my play today, and only gets 29 yards. I mean, that's definitely in play. And I know we think of Hunter Renfrow as that guy, but for whatever reason, Zay Jones has been operating as that guy as well. You know, Brian Edwards starting to filter out. It's basically Zay Jones and Hunter Renfrow getting that short area work. And as far as Zay is concerned, let's see, 17 targets over the last 3 games. And a lot of those were just very, very pedestrian games with against pretty good defenses. This is a different story. So I think they're going to look to take advantage of a compromised defense and secondary. As far as the other receiving props here, you know, I Hunter Renfrow, I know you're on that. I don't mind that. Deshaun Jackson, even at 21.5, I think that's a pretty good play. I think I would probably take the under on Donovan Peoples-Jones. He could certainly, you know, take one and beat this number. But I just think, you know, Nick Mullens is probably going to be more inclined to pepper the tight ends and do some short area work. I don't see him peppering Donovan Peoples-Jones. So I might go under there. Other than that, I don't really have a strong opinion on any of these guys.
Yeah, you know, I feel you. And you know, I'll say my play is Hunter Renfrow over 77.5 receiving yards. But take a look at that number. I mean, it's a plus at 100. Right, the under is sitting at minus 130. It's so fascinating because there are so many different game scripts of how this thing could go. We can find ourselves with the Raiders playing from behind. Like, honestly, like it wouldn't surprise me just because of the issues that they've had offensively this season. Now, Mike, you're on the Browns +3, but take a look here at the board in regards to wide receivers, in regards to tight ends. Anything that you see that you like, severely dislike, or just kind of middle on, you know, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the number on Rashard Higgins is interesting at 14.5, just because you're basically looking at one catch there. It really depends on what kind of game script you're looking at. I like Harrison Bryant a little bit over 17.5. I'm glad that we finally got some of his props up there as well. I do think we see shorter passes to the tight ends. So I'm not taking the unders on Peoples-Jones or any of those other players because we've seen some of the deep play abilities. And I think the way that they're going to defend this team is I think that they're going to have the extra man in the box there. I think that they're going to encourage some of those plays. So I think they're kind of vulnerable taking the unders on them. Also, you get into the game script where, you know, the Raiders are having a lot of success and you're peppering with targets in a prevent defense. So I'm not comfortable playing the unders on really any of them, but I do lean towards the over on Harrison Bryant and Rashard Higgins. Both of those pretty friendly numbers. Harrison Bryant, I'm very interested to see how many 2 tight end sets they end up running. We know Njoku's going to be out there a lot. It'll be interesting to see how much he's out there. He's coming off the ankle injury, but I assume that he's good to go, ready to play. So I would lean over on the 17.5 yards for him.
Nice. All right, so we've reached 250 likes. Jeweler, if you could, let's pull up the donkey and get that thing fired up. For anybody that is new, that doesn't know what that is, our man Mike McClure puts together what we call the donkey parlay of the day. And it's just a fun, you know, kind of parlay built with alternate spreads, totals, props, all kinds of different things. So, Jeweler, if you could pull that up, Mike, break it down for us. And look, plus 450. What do we got, buddy?
Plus 450 this afternoon. The Vegas Raiders plus 7.5. The Cleveland Browns plus 10.5. The over 31.5 total points. Nick Mullens over 199.5 passing yards. David Njoku over 14.5 receiving yards. Deshaun Jackson over 4.5 receiving yards. And Hunter Renfrow 5+ receptions.
So we'll leave that up for just a second. I love when Jeweler hits that. So we'll leave that up here for just a second. And I'll tell you what, we're looking at 4:40 Eastern. All right, we've got the game starting in 20 minutes. So we definitely want to get through here, give everybody enough time to get these plays in. So we'll transition from this right to our favorite part, the Van Jefferson Memorial. And for anyone new, Prop Stars, what do you got, buddy?
I just wanted real quickly, just before we do the VGM, I'm going to make Josh Jacobs under 16.5 rushing attempts an official play. Mike mentioned that's on FanDuel. I also saw that it was. You can actually get a great price on it as well. He's eclipsed his total one time this season. That was against Dallas. I think it's just a huge number. We'll gladly take the under here.
All right, there we go. I like it. And in the chat, I see people talking about in regards to Hunter Renfro's total yards in regards to receiving. Like shop books. Sia brought it up at the beginning of the show. You're going to have books that are way different in regards to some of these props because there's really just not that much precedent for games like this, right? Like basically we have an RG3 game and the Broncos playing with a wide receiver at quarterback. Other than that, in 80 years of the NFL, we really don't have precedent here. So whichever state that you're in, if you have ability to shop different books, absolutely make sure that you are getting the best numbers because as we all know, they're incredibly important. And another thing, this insane week of NFL betting, we have 2 more games tomorrow. We have the 49ers and Titans on Thursday. We have 2 games on Saturday. All right. There's no precedent for any of this. It's craziness. So if you're keeping your head above water, like we don't always say it, appreciate yourself for doing it. Like this is tough right now. Like this is the most brutal time in regards to sports betting. So just keep that in perspective. All right. Our Van Jefferson Memorial. For anybody that is new, what we do is we pick the first touchdown scorer of the game. But the rules to win and get in the club is that they have to be over. They have to be plus 1,000 or over. Okay? So every single person right here is in the club. We're all in the club. So Sia, tell you what, let you go first. What do you got, buddy?
So mine's going to be kind of predictable. Before I say the name, though, I do want to point out that because Anthony Schwartz, I didn't know if he was going to be active for this game. It's not my play, but he is 25-1, and I don't think anybody else has him as a first touchdown scorer. I think they're going to try, especially with the lack of weapons that they have and Nick Mullens at quarterback. I think they're going to involve Anthony Schwartz here and there, like reverses, things of that nature. I'm just saying, a sprinkle on Anthony Schwartz at 25-1 certainly makes sense. But I'm going to go with Zay Jones, and I don't need to really belabor the point on him. He's plus 1,600. I definitely think if and when the Raiders get to the goal line, I said if, right? Because yesterday we didn't have a touchdown score. If and when the Raiders actually get towards the goal line, I think what you're going to see with, let's say, Hunter Renfrow, for example, is probably bracket coverage. Like that's the last guy they are going to let score this particular game on national TV. So I think that's going to leave guys like Foster Moreau, guys like Zay Jones, maybe even Deshaun Jackson, maybe with single coverage again against a defense that really doesn't have much of their secondary. So give me Zay Jones first touchdown score.
I like it. All right. M squared, what do you got, buddy?
All right. So I made a last minute swap after inactives came out. I initially had Rashard Higgins at 2,200. Now I'm going to Harrison Bryant plus 2,200. I like the tight end game for the Cleveland Browns. I think that's going to be the focus for them in the red zone. They obviously Nick Chubb will be a great play. He's not eligible to be played there at that point. So I like Harrison Bryant. I think that the big body is going to help a lot. We already talked about a lot how much Nick Mullens loves to target the tight ends. Give me Harrison Bryant plus 2,200.
Nice. And I'll tell you what, my play is going to be pretty close to what you're talking about. Prop Stars, what do you got, buddy?
Yeah, I'm going to take the Sia approach here and kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I'm going to Deshaun Jackson. I believe he's hovering between plus 1,200 and plus 1,400. All it takes is one play with this guy. He is still an explosive deep threat receiver. He overtook Brian Edwards last week, ran more routes, so he is a lot more involved than he has been. He'd been previously just a part-time player in this offense, so he's going to be on the field a lot, and nothing would be better than to cash the prop and the VJM simultaneously.
Hey, can I interrupt real quick? I'm seeing him at plus 2,200. Is that the number you just said?
I saw it at plus 1,200, but that's even better.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can get it at 2,200 at a lot of places, I think.
Beautiful.
That's great. Yep.
Yeah, look, I'm going David Njoku. All right, like I agree. I think that the tight ends that are available, especially in such a cramped place like the red zone, the closer that you get, I think they're absolutely going to come into play. And M squared is correct. I mean, it's probably going to be Jacobs or Nick Chubb, right? Like, but they're not eligible to be in here. But I'm going to roll into Njoku. I think it's a valuable weapon down there. In the chat, really quickly, Cade Russ says, "I'm begging you, please show the donkey just one last time." Don't worry, buddy. We got you. Coming up. I'll put it right back up here in just a couple minutes. But I'm going to Njoku. All right, now, the jeweler, you have not only your pick, if you could put yourself on the screen, but Coach, I believe, texted his pick into you as well. So start with yours, then hit us with Coach's.
All right. So in the interest of full disclosure, Coach did not send me his pick. I'm making his pick for him. And let's see if you can figure out what the theme is if you're reading along the scroll at the bottom, which already has our picks going there. I'm going to go with the Raiders defense / special teams. I want a defense to just pick six, house it, just like I was playing my 5-year-old nephew in Tecmo Bowl the other day. And I think I scored most of my points off of pick sixes because he just is an idiot and kept throwing into coverage. Nick Mullens, like we said, minus 180 for an INT. The juice is not worth the squeeze there to bet him for the pick there. But, at 30-1, like, let's throw a little sprinkle on the Raiders to get one back. He's got nearly 1-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. Not as bad of a touchdown to interception ratio as Derek Carr over his past 6 games, 6 TDs with 8 interceptions, which is why Coach is going with the Browns defense special teams at plus 2,800. And while we're throwing in bonus picks that don't really count for anything, I'll just throw in Hunter Renfrow. Plus 800 is the best number I saw out there. He's had 30 receptions, 353 receiving yards over the past 3 games. First person to do it in the NFL this season. I think that's some sort of a franchise record. We know AB's on him. So those are my VJM picks.
I love it. Nice job. And I'll tell you what, we're all pulling for a massive Hunter Renfrow game. This is the Hunter Renfrow game. We'll see about that. All right, jeweler, if we could, let's pull the donkey back up for our man Caden and everybody else so that we could get those in. And Mike, if you could, run through that for us real quick. Also, in the chat, like we said, jeweler calling the 5-year-old an idiot is actually hilarious to me. I respect it. You know what? Hey, you got to bring your best to the game. But yeah, Mike, run us through this, buddy. What do we got?
Yeah, so we got the Raiders plus 7.5 on the alt spread, the Cleveland Browns plus 10.5 on the alternate spread, over 31.5 total points in the game. Nick Mullens over 199.5 passing yards, David Njoku over 14.5 receiving yards, Deshaun Jackson over 4.5 receiving yards, and Hunter Renfrow 5+ catches.
Beautiful. At a beautiful plus 450. All right, we're reaching 450 Eastern, ironically enough. And I'll tell you what, we do want to make sure that we get out of here and give you enough time to get these picks in. I know a lot of people are probably still at work. So what I want to do, we always end with the guys giving 30 seconds on what they're most excited to see. If you could, just give us your official plays for tonight. Don't have to break it down, just what they are. And, yep, there we go. Perfect. All right, don't even have to do it. All right, so Prop Stars, I'll start with you. 30 seconds. What are you looking at tonight?
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to seeing some afternoon football. Very excited. Always enjoy watching these two teams play each other. Should be very interesting with all the depth missing. I'm looking forward to seeing a very competitive game. I think Nick Mullens is going to surprise some people as well.
See ya. What do you got, my man?
2 things. One is I'm really looking forward to being on the early edge again at 7:15 for probably a much more exciting and offensively explosive game. So looking forward to that with all of these people and Coach and perhaps others. But the other thing real quick, if for those of you that think, listen, the Raiders are just sort of mailing it in and it's that time of season, that's, again, like Allan said, that's not a thing for the individual players. They're always fighting for contracts. They're always fighting for next year. But, oh, by the way, when they played the Cowboys on Thanksgiving, which, again, was another national television game, they were coming off a 3-game losing streak to the Giants, the Chiefs, and the Bengals. Yeah, I said the Giants. That was in that 3-game losing streak. And then, boom, they beat the Cowboys in national TV. They're coming off 2 losses. Again, I think this is an interesting spot because they're on national TV.
Beautifully said. Well done. M squared.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Browns +3 here. Just too many points here on their home field. Primetime home dog, like Alex said. I like Nick Mullens. George Kittle, former teammate of Nick Mullens, gave him a nickname. It's the same nickname that Nick Foles goes by, for those of you that are familiar.
We might have to
I went by that
one.
too in high school.
Well done. Well done. I'm looking forward to Chief. I'm always looking forward to Chief. What I'm looking forward to tonight is how the scoring goes, because all the pressure is on the Raiders. The Browns are coming into a game that no one's expecting them to win. Nobody's giving them a chance. And I'll tell you what, being here in Nashville, I saw the same thing on a Tuesday last year when the Bills came into town with everybody and the Titans had nobody. And you know what happened? The Titans beat them by 40, right? Like, I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but weird things in the NFL can happen when a team is playing loose, a coaching staff is coaching loose, calling plays like that. So every single drive, quarter that the Browns keep this thing tight, the pressure stays on the Raiders, not on them. So that's all the time that we have for today. Let me say, appreciate you guys tuning in. I know it's a weird time for you. It's a weird time for everybody, right? But we're going to be live again at 7:15 p.m. Eastern tonight to break down the Vikings and the Bears. We'll run through it. Yep, see Chiefs excited. And we're going to do the exact same thing. We'll have official plays, VJMs, you name it. We're going to break it down. So thank you. And as Coach always says, but I don't have his energy. At least I wish I could. You have your marching orders. Let's take all these straight to the pay window. I'll tell you what, we'll see you in 3 hours. Thank you so much.